This is Amy with the Hag Reads, and I am back with 3 books today. I've been reading at a pretty good clip. I am currently 9 books ahead of schedule, and coming up soon I'll have some where it's clear that I read like 10 children's books, so that's the reason I'm 9 ahead. It's not like I did any great prolific reading. It just happens to be with what I'm trying to read in terms of series and stuff like that. A number of them are children's books, so it gives you a little leg up with the reading goals. The first book that I finished was The Banana Cream Pie Murder, which is a Hannah Swensen cozy murder mystery by Joanne Fluke. And I've talked about these on several videos. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with them. I love cozy mysteries. There's a lot about... and this is number 21, so I've been at this for a while, several years. I didn't start it when the series came out, so I kind of binged it for a while, and maybe that's what pushed me over the edge. Binging long-term series, probably not a good idea. Probably better put, maybe read one a quarter, at least for me, because I got really annoyed at some of the idiosyncrasies of the character. Like, I really, and I've talked about it before, the badly behaved cat, which is very common in cozy murder mysteries that feature women. I really hate that cat. And then, she got married in between this book and the last book. And I said when the husband, who was the fiance, who was the old love interest, renewed, I liked both Norman and Mike, and I realized why the author maybe wouldn't want to make her choose between them, because it might create, a change in the dynamic for who she can go to for help in solving these cozy murder mysteries. But since the husband character was introduced, I don't like him at all. Something about him rings false to me. I think he's too good to be true, kind of smarmy, and maybe it's just me, but like, I kept hoping he was gonna knock her off in one of these novels, and that would just be the end of it. Like, she was just trusting the wrong person. But I really do get the sense that he's just too good to be true, and I really dislike him, despite the fact that he has never done anything wrong or inappropriate or bad to Hannah. And I don't even really like Hannah as a character at this point. But I really dislike him, so my secret hope is that he'll knock her off and that'll be the end of the series. But it won't. This is the most recently published one. So I don't know if I'm going to return to the series, because they've obviously left it open for another one. This one was published this year, and they're coming out about one a year. So maybe there'll be another one next year, and I'll see how I feel then about reading another one. But it's reached kind of a... this is like the same thing with the paranormal romance and urban fantasy with the, the badass female characters. I'm just not getting the joy out of it that I used to. I still enjoy the Loon Lake cozy murder mystery series, but there's something about the Hannah Swensen ones that are just not bringing me any happiness in my reading anymore. So perhaps I'm going to let this series go, since I've caught up with it, and I don't know that I care enough about any of these characters to continue reading. Another thing that I have to say about it is, Hannah used to always be busy at the bakery, and now Hannah's busy solving mysteries. And there sure are a lot of people in that tiny, tiny town who eat a shit ton of cookies, and then also another lot of people who are willing to help her out with her baking and serving in her little business for free. These people just come in and help her out. And yes, a number of them are family members, but it's a lot of help. So she's running a successful business based on free labor from people, so she can go out and solve mysteries that the police are perfectly capable of handling. So The book itself was pretty predictable. This one was the sister of the mayor moves back into town, and she has a theater background. She's pretty famous. She's running the local theater now, and giving acting lessons in her home. And she's found murdered by Hannah's mother, Dolores, while Hannah's on her honeymoon. And as they are, going into shore for the end of her honeymoon, she basically finds out as soon as she gets back, her mother wants her to solve this mystery, again, despite the fact that the police are perfectly capable of solving the mystery themselves. And so, proceeds pretty predictably. I mean, I am somewhat entertained by them, but the amount of entertainment versus the amount of things I find annoying about the book are starting to, less enjoyment, more annoyance, and that's why I may not be going forward. At the end of this, there's kind of a surprise that I didn't find surprising. I'm surprised it took this long, and this has to do with how I feel about the husband, so may not be going back to those. I gave it 3 stars. That's what I give all of them. They're not good. They're not bad. I just, as I said, my joy level is shifting. Less joy, more frustration. The next book is Dear Amy by Helen. I think it's Calaghan or Callingham. I can't read my own handwriting. Anyway, so what you have here for a main character, she's a teacher at a private school. I think it's a Catholic school, maybe? But it's like a preparatory school. But she's also an advice columnist. And that's where the Dear Amy comes from, because that's not her name. Dear Amy is people write letters, and she gives them advice in a column. But I think I got the sense that it's a small enough area that she can write back to the people as well. So she puts a lot of time into that and grading papers and stuff. And she's, very helpful to her students. And she's teaching literature. So that's kind of her mind frame. And then the premise of the book itself is that as part of her job as the Dear Amy character, or Dear Amy advice columnist, she receives a letter purporting to be from a girl who went missing 20 years before, and it's shortly after another girl goes missing that attended her school and disappeared under very similar circumstances. And so she becomes kind of this amateur sleuth, because she takes the letter to the police and they don't take her very seriously because it's been 20 years, and they kind of laugh. You can pretty much laugh in her face. They don't take her seriously at all. So she takes it on herself to try and start figuring out who this person is, and she is contacted by I guess an organization that looks into cold cases. A handwriting analysis determined that the letter was most likely written by the missing girl from 20 years before. The handwriting is similar enough that they think there's a link. And so initially the police don't take her seriously at all. And then all of a sudden they're all like up in her business because now she's a suspect because she got this letter. And so it was interesting from that perspective of watching her try and deal with all this. In some ways, it reminded me of some elements of The Girl on the Train and The Woman in Cabin 10. And I mean that in a more complimentary way, because I did not like either of those books. I despised The Girl on the Train. I hated that book. And then I had kind of meh feelings about The Girl in Cabin 10. It was very similar in themes and structure to the Girl on the Train, and I just didn't enjoy them. And I think it's because the female protagonists are these super flawed, alcoholic, hot mess characters, and I just don't enjoy that as a portrayal of women as victims who aren't taken seriously because of, you know, but you're setting up that they won't be able to, so it's a plot device, a reason why they aren't going to be taken seriously by anybody in a position of authority, because they are alcoholic, they're unstable. But it perpetuates this thing about women that, you know, in the case of the girl on the train, that if your man leaves you, you go off on a giant bender, lose your job, become emotionally unstable, and you're texting him like an idiot at 3 in the morning and you don't even remember it. It's just, I don't like to see that kind of thing perpetuated, but I do understand it as a plot device. It's not that extreme here. It had kind of that shade of I felt like it had similarities to that in terms of, you know, as you get further into the story, you start to question, you know, she does some things that seem, you know, you find out she's got a history of some mental health problems, and that shouldn't affect what's going on now, but, you know, it takes away from her credibility, and her reactions to that and other people's reactions to that were interesting, but kind of painful to watch. So overall, I enjoyed the book. I didn't really know what to expect, and I really picked it up just for the title because my name is Amy, and wouldn't you know it, it's a somewhat emotionally unstable, you know, female character. But I felt like it had the twist that it did have. I had kind of an inkling at first, but there was still enough of a twist to really not surprise me, but to intrigue me at the end. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars, though. It wasn't a 4-star. The writing would have had to have been, I don't know if better is the right, the writing wasn't awful. It's just that I felt like the treatment of her mental health issues was, it was so muddy, you know. And so that part was, it was difficult to watch, but also I think, you know, realistic. When police find out you have a history with mental health issues, they're not going to take you seriously. But even the people that had been supporting her started to pull back some. And so it was her trying to deal with that and solve this, and there was such a sense of urgency. But overall, it was an enjoyable read, a solid 3, not great, and, you know, entertaining enough. The final book I want to talk about today is The Devil's Star, which is number 5 in the series by Joe Nesbo, or Joe Nes... Oh my God. I don't know. Hold on. Nesbo. It almost looked like Nesbit, and I'm like, that can't be right. And this is, it takes place in Oslo, and this is translated, I am pretty sure, Norwegian, and it's a hard-boiled kind of detective, and he's got a problem with alcohol, and in one of the earlier books, his partner, his police partner, was murdered on the job, and he's never really been able to get past it. But even prior to that, he's had a problem with loss leading to drinking, leading to alcoholism, leading to, you know, he just makes bad decisions. But he's actually a really good police detective, and he's good at his job, but he has kind of the aura he exudes is one of, I don't give a shit. He's very gruff, very not politically correct. He does what he thinks is necessary, and he doesn't necessarily care about what the policy is, he does what needs to be done to get the job done. And it gets him into a lot of trouble. And then, his immediate superior is kind of always managing his alcoholism, covering for him or marking him as on leave when he goes on a bender, that sort of thing. But it's kind of come to a head with the next, the highest power that's over his boss. And as you go into this book, he's about to be fired, and so he is accepting of that, but he wants to work on one more case. He's got a few weeks left, and so he might as well do some work. And so he gets involved in this murder investigation, and the initial murder is a woman who was murdered in an upstairs flat, like the top floor, in the shower, shot in the head, and they find a red diamond that's in the shape of a star, and so the name of the book is The Devil's Star. And so this has, some occult related things, but it becomes a series of murders, and he's forced to work with Vlod, who is kind of his nemesis, and who he has suspected for a long time had a hand in his partner's death. And so he considered her a close friend, and he's never gotten over this. And so he's got this real resentment and anger with Vlod. But in the 5th book, Vlod appears to be trying to make peace with him, and because he knows he's going out anyway, Harry kind of lets that happen. He just kind of goes along, and on the surface, I think, appears to be trying to get along with him. And as you go, there are more murders and more women, and they're very brutal, and they're following a kind of pattern. And as they're drawn further and further into this, the relationship between him and Vlod becomes weirder and weirder. And so it kind of reminded me of the first book, which I thought was really good. And I've enjoyed all of them, but I enjoyed the first book the most. And this one kind of brings back that same thing where it takes you to a good place, and then it kind of brings you really low, and then it, they all kind of have a resolved ending. The bad guy gets caught and all that. That's just the way the novels go. But it always feels like the events that solve the crime crush Harry, his spirit, and his, they just kind of crush the life out of him and drive him back into drinking. And I read these and I just feel like, don't do it. Like, no. But he's gonna kind of slide back into old habits. And so that's what's been hard about the series, is you go and he'll have books where he's on the road to recovery, and then, books where he's deep in the alcoholic depression. And so I really did enjoy this, and I'm not doing it justice with my description, but if you're looking for kind of a hard-boiled detective mystery series, I would highly recommend it, as long as you're not triggered by the alcoholic and depressive elements of his story. And they deal with, the crimes are brutal and horrific, but if you're into that sort of thing, the hard-boiled detective, the, hard-bitten police procedural kind of stuff, then I would definitely recommend this. I'll continue to read in this series. I think right now there are a total of 10, and I don't know how many there are going to be. They come out and they're in Norwegian, and then we have to wait in the United States for them to be translated. So I think they come out here every 2 or 3 years, because they have to go through their run in their original language, and then they come out in translation. but I'm enjoying the series so far. And I haven't been pushing to read them very often. I've been leaving kind of a month in between because I know I'm going to catch up and have to wait a very long time for the next one. But I do very much enjoy these. They're not uplifting, but they are good stories, and they're, I don't even know if I would call it entertainment. They do give you a lot to think about. Like, sometimes I can figure out the whodunit part, and sometimes I can't. But I do also enjoy the interpersonal drama. And that is all I have for this installment. I hope that your week is continuing to go well. If you watched to the end, thank you so much. Happy whatever time of day it is for you, and I will see you next time. Bye!